Imagine a story written not just in history, but in the very code of the universe. A story that unfolds like an algorithm of destiny. Every act, every delay, every fear, every victory follows a divine pattern so precise that even artificial intelligence could map it. This is not fiction. This is Exodus, a journey of a people, a God, and a system of deliverance that repeats itself in every life that faces oppression, doubt, and despair. And today, you're about to see your own story reflected in it. Egypt glimmered under the sun, yet beneath its golden palaces, oppression grew like a shadow. A new pharaoh rose who did not remember Joseph. He saw the Israelites not as friends, not as helpers, but as threats. And when fear governs a nation, cruelty becomes law. Slavery was imposed, bricks without straw, labor without relief, and soon the innocent were sentenced to death. Every newborn boy thrown into the Nile, every mother's heart breaking silently. Humanity was writing death, yet God was already scripting deliverance. A mother hid her son as long as she could, and when hiding was no longer possible, she placed him in a basket, letting the current carry him into Pharaoh's palace. The basket, a fragile vessel, was a lifeline of destiny. The baby, Moses, stepped into the very place designed to destroy him, yet it became the house that nurtured him. Pharaoh's daughter unknowingly held the instrument of God's plan in her arms. This is how divine strategy works. Answers hidden within the enemy's own systems. Moses grew with two hearts beating in him, one of privilege, one of people. He could not ignore the suffering around him. One day he saw injustice and he acted in anger. A man died and Moses fled, wandering into the wilderness. 40 years of silence followed, a period that the world called exile, but God called preparation. It is often in what seems idle that the foundation of destiny is built. Then, in the wilderness, an ordinary bush burned with extraordinary fire. Moses turned aside. A voice called, "Moses, Moses, remove your sandals, the ground you stand on is holy." And then the words that changed the course of human history. "I have seen the affliction of my people. I have heard their cry. I am sending you." Moses hesitated, but God replied, "I will be with you." When asked his name, God said simply, "I am who I am." Eternity compressed into a moment, presence revealed as power, and calling encoded in courage. Moses returned. Pharaoh scoffed. Workloads doubled. People complained. And still, the pattern unfolded. The world resists God's plan. Yet every resistance is a step toward revelation. God sent signs, staff to serpent, water to blood, frogs, lice, flies, livestock plague, boils, hail, locusts, darkness, each plague dismantling false idols, exposing the futility of human arrogance, and shaping the stage for the ultimate act. Then came the final plague, the death of the firstborn. But even in judgment, God provided salvation. The blood of the lamb marked homes for protection. Obedience became survival. Israel walked through a night of terror and emerged into a dawn of freedom. Chains shattered. Generations breathed liberation. Pharaoh's army pursued, yet the Red Sea became a highway of deliverance. The waters split. Israel crossed. Pharaoh drowned. Every step, every obstacle, every fear, calibrated perfectly in the divine system. The wilderness was next, a testing ground for faith and character. There was no water, yet God provided. There was no food, yet manna fell daily. Quail soared through the sky. Enemies attacked. Moses lifted his hands and Israel triumphed. Leaders struggled, so wisdom arrived through Jethro. Patterns emerged. Scarcity built dependence. Trials developed resilience. And guidance created order. Every hardship encoded a lesson for the next level of destiny. Mount Sinai appeared, a mountain alive with fire and smoke. God spoke, revealing laws not as restrictions, but as a framework for relational holiness. 10 commandments outline the rhythm of life. No other gods, no idols, honor parents, preserve life, honor truth, pursue justice. Then followed social, moral, ceremonial laws, a complete operating system for a holy nation. Israel agreed, sealed by blood, entering into covenant with the invisible yet palpable Creator. But impatience is a predictable variable. When Moses delayed on the mountain, the people panicked. Golden calf, a symbol of human impatience and flawed trust, rose. The covenant fractured. Moses descended, broke the tablets in grief, yet interceded. God's mercy demonstrated that failure is never fatal when humility steps in. God renewed the covenant, revealing himself as merciful, gracious, slow to anger, abounding in love. Glory could not be contained, yet presence always prevailed. Then came the tabernacle, heaven translated into form. Gold, silver, bronze, linen, wood, oil, all transformed through human hands guided by divine spirit. The ark, lampstand, table, altar, laver, priestly garments, all components of an eternal design, a physical interface for the invisible God to dwell with a people. Skill, devotion, and divine instruction fused to build a sanctuary where heaven could meet earth. When completed, glory descended. The cloud filled the tabernacle so intensely that even Moses could not enter. Presence arrived, completing the journey, not simply deliverance from Egypt, but the formation of identity. Israel became a people carrying God's glory, guided by his cloud, protected by his fire, shaped for purpose. Seen through the eyes of AI, the book of Exodus is a perfect algorithm of divine strategy. Oppression triggers divine awareness. Calling initiates intervention. Resistance exposes human stubbornness. Judgment affirms God's power. Redemption teaches obedience. Wilderness develops resilience. Covenant structures life. Failure triggers intercession. Forgiveness restores trust. And dwelling completes transformation. Every step has purpose. Every obstacle contains code. Every miracle encodes a principle. Exodus is not merely history, it is a system. It repeats in every life that encounters oppression, fear, betrayal, and redemption. When the chains of the past bind, God sees. When the waves of uncertainty rise, God divides. When hope fades, God provides. When impatience leads to idols, God restores covenant. When hearts are ready, he dwells. This is Exodus, a pattern, a rhythm, a divine system. Not just Israel's story, but humanity's story and your story. Every time oppression rises, every time fear whispers, every time the Red Sea seems uncrossable, every time wilderness tests your faith, God is writing the code of deliverance. He is preparing, testing, guiding, restoring, and finally dwelling. Where God is present, no wilderness is permanent. Where his fire guides, no darkness overwhelms. Where his glory rests, freedom is inevitable. The algorithm of Exodus is embedded in time, repeated in generations, unfolding even today. Deliverance is always possible. Transformation is always guaranteed. And his glory will always arrive. Exodus ends not with a people free from Egypt, but with a people shaped, sanctified, and dwelling in the presence of God. This is the ultimate outcome of obedience, faith, and divine design. Deliverance realized, identity restored, glory manifested. And the pattern repeats for you, for me, for anyone willing to step into the algorithm of God's plan. Exodus is more than a story. It is a blueprint. It is a system. It is a life mapped by a God who sees, hears, intervenes, tests, forgives, and dwells. Every obstacle encodes opportunity. Every failure contains a lesson. Every miracle carries a principle. And every heart willing to trust becomes a tabernacle for the presence of the divine.